Hey there everybody, this is your art teacher Mr. Young, and if you received my announcements from last week, you'll understand that this week we are starting school very differently than the first 4 weeks of school. So this week some students are going to be coming back to school, having face-to-face classes, while other students are going to remain at home doing virtual classes. Because of that, I have this video provided for all of our virtual students, and for our face-to-face students, I will be providing you this lesson in our classroom. So you don't have to worry about watching this unless you do miss our class during this week. So if you do miss our class, you can still watch this video to get caught up with our lesson for this week. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get started with this presentation. For today, we are going to be discussing our Google Classroom expectations. We will also have a short lesson on shapes, and we'll discuss about a famous artist named Britto. After that, we will have time at the end of the video where I will show you step by step how you can create your own artwork. Now, it's important for us to discuss our Google Classroom expectations because we have a brand new Google Classroom just for our art class. And so the first thing you need to make sure you do is to join the Art Google Classroom for your grade level. There's a separate Google Classroom for 4th grade art, for 5th grade art, and 3rd grade art, and so on. So make sure you're in the right Google Classroom for your grade level. And if you're not in the right one, I'll have to kick you out. So make sure you sign up for the right one. And then the second thing that's very important for you to do in our Google Classroom is to view and watch the lesson videos, including the one that I'm making right now, so this one. And each week I'll make a new lesson video, and you'll have the responsibility to go ahead and watch the video. That's how you're going to know what you will be doing during that week for art class, because I will not be meeting you virtually to talk with you. So make sure you watch the video, and that's how I will be communicating to you. If you do have any questions for me, since I don't get to talk with you over the video like we used to, you can go ahead and comment down in our Google Classroom, and we can communicate that way, or you can email me at my email. And then lastly, the last thing you have to do in Google Classroom is the most important thing, I think, and that is for you to submit your artworks. So that is crucial for you to be graded. So if you don't submit it, that shows me that you did not do your work, and you will receive a lower grade because of that. So make sure you submit your artwork, and that shows me that you did participate in art class for that week. So make sure you do that in Google Classroom. Alright, now I'm going to move on to the next part of this presentation. So hopefully you understand that, or if you have any questions, you can email me again. And now let's go ahead and talk about shape. So shape is really important in our art class. It's one of the 7 elements of art. Just like the first 2 elements that we learned in the first 4 weeks of school, we learned line is one element of art, and another is color. And the third that we're going to learn is shape. And artists need to use shape to create their masterpieces. So it's really important for us to understand shape. And if you don't know what a shape is, it is a flat or 2-dimensional figure that has a height and width to it. Just like this square has a height and a width. That's how long and how tall the shape is. And a shape is also when you have a line going in any direction and coming back to that same point, and it creates a closed or an enclosed line. That is also how you create a shape. So shapes also have 2 different categories. The first category of shapes are geometric shapes, and those are these shapes over here. They're also called regular shapes because they are the normal shapes you would think of if we think of shapes like squares, circles, triangles. And then we also have these other ones with more and more sides to them. And geometric shapes are the shapes that are more mathematical and easier to draw, some might say. And then we have our second category of shapes, which are the organic shapes. And these are these shapes down here. And they are organic shapes because they are more natural or free form. And These shapes are usually more abstract or irregular. Sometimes they may look like an object, like this flower here. But most of the time, organic shapes could be all different kinds of shapes that's very abstract or irregular. And another thing we need to understand in art is that you can use basic geometric shapes like a circle to create any kind of object. Like in this example down here, we have a avocado down here, and an avocado has two circles and then a longer shape at the top. So it's basically a circle but with just like a little bump at the top. And then when you're creating like a pumpkin design, for example, it starts off like an oval shape and you'll add the designs on the outside of it. And then same with these birds, where it has a circle shape to define where the body and the head are. And then you can add the details around the shapes after you have those basic shapes down. And then lastly, if you see here, shapes can also help you work with proportions of figure drawing, like this drawing of a person. And so we'll watch the next video now, which will just recap a little bit and explain more about the element of shape.
The element of shape. Shape is defined as the contour of a flat object. Shape can be rendered either overtly or more subtly with a collective of other shapes or with a general contour of an object. Three general categories of shape are geometric, modified, and organic. Within the geometric shape category, the big three are circle, triangle, and rectangle. Circles. As an expression of a complete rotation and having no endpoints, circles are often used to convey a sense of completion, wholeness, and the eternal. Triangles. Triangles often signify directional movement, most often in the cardinal directions. A triangle with a flat baseline and two equal sides feels balanced and offers a sense of an apex, like a mountain, or may be used to signify a hierarchy. Rectangles. Rectangles are a bit different. Look around you right now. You are surrounded by rectangles. Your phone, laptop, walls, doors, windows. Rectangles are everywhere in human design. Now contrast this with nature. If you went for a walk in the woods, where would you find a perfect rectangle? Pretty much nowhere. So when we use a rectangle, we're signaling human design. Next, we have modified shapes. The three most common modifications of shapes are rounding, skewing, and rotating. While sharp corners feel precise, rounded corners feel safer, more inviting, and that's why so many icons and buttons are rounded. Skewing a shape can give it a sense of 3D perspective, or speed. Rotating a shape often entirely changes its meaning. For example, this triangle can convey balance or imbalance, depending on its rotation. Next, we have organic shapes. Organic shapes compose the huge range of irregularly angled shapes. Two common groups of organic shapes are bilateral and asymmetrical. Bilateral organic shapes, like a tree or animal, resonate with us because the human body is also bilaterally symmetrical. This also means we're quick to notice when an object is not quite bilaterally symmetrical. Asymmetrical organic shapes, like a paint splatter or a cloud, may reference nature or feel more disorderly and chaotic. Lastly, shape offers the artist a sort of superpower, a different way of seeing the world. To explain, rather than viewing a complex object as composed of edge lines that may be really hard to draw, seeing objects as made of simple shapes allows you to work faster and with a greater sense of proportion and accuracy. So there you have it, the incredibly powerful element of shape.
Alright, now after watching that video, hopefully you understand a little bit more how complex shape could really be in art class. And as you saw at the end of the video here, you could use shape to more easily draw, such as drawing a person. It's a combination of different shapes put together, and when you erase the shapes on the inside, you can get a a contour of a drawing of a person. So that's just some more information about shape, one of our elements of art. And now let's discuss this artist. His name is Romero Britto, and he is a Brazilian American artist who lives in Miami now, but he was born and raised in Brazil. And he was greatly inspired by pop art, cubism, and graffiti that he saw here in America. And his style has become so iconic, and he is known for his warm, bright, and optimistic colors and shapes, and the impressions of love within his artworks. If you watch the next video, you'll find that a lot of his artworks are so bright and cheerful and joyful, and he made that for a reason. And so let's go ahead and watch this next video where we get to meet the artist.
These are the works of Romero Britto. They're joyful, simple, and you may start to notice they're all over the place. But who is Romero Britto? And how did he become so prolific that he is the most licensed artist in history? Let's start with the basics. Romero Britto is an artist, more specifically a contemporary artist who blends pop art with cubist-like abstraction.
And the subject matters that I do. It's very simple, very direct. I'm very consistent with my colors. And then the lines, the stripes, little things that I put in my work that is part of my vocabulary.
He was born in Brazil to a big family, and growing up was pretty tough.
My mother had like 12 kids. I wanted to get out of the house because it was chaotic.
And little did he know, art would become his ticket out.
Since I was a kid, I always liked drawing, but I never knew that it would change my life.
At age 25, he moved to Miami, where pop art was flourishing.
I was like, you know what? I love America. I love Miami particularly because it's such a dynamic city.
With no formal art training, he would paint on newspapers and on the streets, the only canvases he could afford.
Before I show my work in galleries, I show my work on the sidewalk of Miami.
He was able to move into a small studio, soon getting his first brand deal with Absolute Vodka. And from there, his career took off. Disney, Coca-Cola, Mattel, Samsung, luggage, lamps, watches, bananas. If you can slap a print on it, odds are there's a Britto version of it. His sculptures are in train stations, shopping plazas, hotels, corporate headquarters. The guy has done the Super Bowl, the World Cup, and the Olympics. So, yeah, Romero Britto is everywhere.
How many pieces of art I've done? Oh my God, listen, it's pretty hard to keep track of it. Like a few thousands.
To keep the business going, he's hired dozens of employees, and the scale of the operation is staggering.
People say that I'm the most licensed artist in history, so I'm very honored for that because it means that my work is reaching out millions of people. I just don't want my art to be enjoyed by the elite of the world, but I want my art to be enjoyed by the masses as well.
But nevertheless, Romero's art has caught the attention of celebrities and heads of state all over the world.
All those pieces are here are prototypes and $1 trillion. People tend to say that if you're colorful and you're fun, you're not serious. But I do think we are all searching for happiness.
And to help others see this happiness, Romero's company has donated to over 250 charities, including the Holtz Children's Hospital in Miami.
If we see all the time darkness, when there's going to be the moment of brightness? Everything about my work is things that I think is very pleasing to my eyes and to my heart and make me feel good because life should be about fun.
Now that we watched that video where we got to learn a little bit about Romero Britto, let's go ahead and look at some of his famous artworks. So in many of his artworks, he loves to use cartoons, animals, and pop culture icons, just like in these three examples over here. The middle one, we see a bear. He often uses a lot of different cute animals to relate with people and make people happy when they see an animal. And he also uses cartoons, often from pop culture. He also collaborates with many different companies, including Disney, where he created this one of Mickey Mouse, of course. And then we have this one over here on the right. And if anyone recognizes this person, this is Frida Kahlo. So he loves to create artwork of items or people or characters that people can relate to or they know of. And so here are just some of the examples of that. And in this next slide, we'll look closer into how he uses shapes, patterns, and bright colors to create his paintings. So just like as you saw in the video, he says he loves to create simple yet really bright and happy designs to make other people feel happy. So we have this one over here, a puppy, and if you look behind the puppy, there's a bunch of flowers and hearts surrounding it. And so that creates a shape design, but inside the shapes you also see patterns. So you see these floral patterns inside of here. We see some polka dots, more polka dots, and some stripes inside of that. And then we also see on top of the puppy itself, the puppy also has some polka dots on there, some stripes, and a checker pattern. Also this other unique pattern on the inside. So we can see how Romero Britto's style kind of looks like, because he likes to use these bright colors, use a lot of different patterns combined together, and he uses these black bold lines to create his artworks. So after this, let's go ahead and start on our project. For this week, we are going to create our own Romero Britto inspired artwork. So you don't have to copy any example. You can think of your own thing that you want to create. And so the first step for you to do is brainstorm a character or an animal that you would like to create your artwork of. Just like how he used Mickey Mouse. Maybe if you wanted to include your favorite cartoon character, you can do that. Or if you have a favorite artist, like he did one of Frida Kahlo, you can do that. Or maybe if you have an animal, a pet at home, you can dedicate this artwork for your pet. So here I did my pet. Over here it is my puppy. And I also added a bunch of colors and patterns in the background here. So to do that, you're going to use a pencil to sketch out your whole design. And you're going to use bright colors to create shapes and different patterns on the inside of your background. You can even add some on top of your character or your animal if you'd like. And then lastly, I grab a black marker or pen to go ahead and put in those bold lines again. And that's going to make your artwork. So before I show you how I did mine, go ahead and grab yourself a piece of paper, a pencil, and then a black marker or pen, or anything that's dark enough to make those bold lines with. And then lastly, grab some coloring materials. And if you don't have coloring materials, that's okay. I understand that you're working with supplies that you have at home. But as long as you can draw it, I want to see that you can draw different shapes and patterns. Alright, let's go ahead and get started with my tutorial. So here I'm going to begin with the paper and pencil to sketch out my design again. I'm starting with the middle here, drawing my animal. So I'm here drawing my puppy. I started with these basic shapes. Just like we learned earlier, you can use basic shapes, like these geometric shapes, to create the base of your drawings, and that'll help you out. So I created a circle with the ears, and then since my puppy is all fluffy like a poodle, I put in these puffy textures on the outside to make it more detailed. After that, I added the eyes and the nose, and then a little tongue at the bottom. After that, I'm going to go around my background now and put in some random straight lines going out in different diagonal directions. And so you can see I'm doing that here. And I'm just adding a few lines here and there. You don't want to make all these sections too small. Make them big enough so that way you can still add some different patterns on the inside. Alright, now that I have that, I'm going to move on to coloring. You can see here I'm starting with the yellow and I'm putting a zigzag pattern in there. When you have a zigzag pattern going repetitively, it's also called a chevron pattern. So that's what I'm doing right here. Here I just skipped ahead a little bit and you can see that I've added a lot of different patterns. So besides just line patterns, I also wanted to include those shape patterns like these hearts, these circles or polka dots, and I added some stars. You can create all different kinds of designs with different shapes. If you want to do a different shape than I did, go ahead and do that. Here I skipped a little bit further towards the end, and I'm going to finish my coloring. Once I'm done coloring my whole background and the details in my puppy here, I'm going to grab a black marker to put a bold black line right in between all of my shapes in the background. And I also wanted to outline my character or my animal here. And so you're going to do this with a black marker, or if you don't have a black marker, as long as you have something darker like a black pencil or a black pen, maybe a Sharpie, you can grab that and outline. After I'm done coloring and outlining, I'm going in with my eraser to erase all of the pencil lines that's still showing. And I'm going to leave my puppy white here because my puppy is actually a white coat. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And that is the end of my drawing. So make sure when you are done with your artwork that you take a picture of it and you submit it to me in Google Classroom. Again, it's very important for you to submit because that's how you will get graded for your participation while you are virtual. Lastly, I hope you find this video fun and interesting, and I can't wait to see your awesome artworks, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week.